Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of GrowSeattle. I'm Scott, and I'll be your host today. So today we got on our schedule Shiitake Mushroom log update, feeding the compost bin, repotting update, and germination update. So overnight we've had some pretty cool development on the mushroom log. So this was the mushroom log that I bought just at our local grocery store, QFC, for $15. There are 20 buds that I've counted. Let's see, actually, there might be more now. So let's see. This one I don't think is going to produce. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So it looks like there are 29 buds on here now. It did say to thin out some of the buds so that the caps will grow even bigger. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that before I water it. So I think maybe I need to actually remove maybe both of these, but I think I'm going to just go with this one first. I'm just going to rip it off. Maybe using a knife would be better, but I'm not sure. Okay, so we'll just put that there. That's edible now. I'll take off this smaller one here. That one. I don't know if that one's going to keep developing or not. I think that those are probably spaced out enough. Take out this one. These littlest ones I'll probably throw in the compost. Guy's got to go, and the slightly bigger ones I'll try to eat. This guy is probably going to go if we want to maximize our yield. I'm hoping this guy will grow this way, this guy will grow that way, so I'll leave him. This little nubbin's got to go. Try to pull this one out more just in case. Okay, and looking at this log, I think this log is actually a wood chip log. I don't think it's a whole log, so that actually gives me hope to be able to prolong or make my own one of these. It's probably just a hardwood wood chips. Okay, so where did this piece? You would think that I would have been prepared, but of course I was running late. Wanted to start at 10, but okay, so now we're going to water this guy. We have a cup over there and a bucket. So I'm going to move this. Very professional setup. I hope this box will support this. Should, hopefully. So this is just the bucket that I soaked the log in yesterday for about maybe 5.5 hours. So this has little bits of mushroom from there. I added a little bit of this water to the compost bucket and had some dessert last night, so we made some extra scraps, some strawberry tops, some leftover potatoes, banana, and coffee grounds from yesterday. Just continuing to add to that. I added some of the mushroom water. Hopefully the mushroom water will help to inoculate, and then the mycelium will start to help to break down that and start to turn it into mushroom compost. At least that is the theory. So I have here the mushroom log. I'm just going to hold it like this. I'm going to use this cup for water. Actually, you know what? Screw that. That's not going to work. Best thing to do, I think, probably just dunk it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so at this point there's only about half a bucket's worth of water, which is perfect to dip half and half. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And actually, I didn't notice there was a couple of nubs coming out from the side here, so add 1 or 2 to the count. Put that log back. Move these cups out of the way. This is going to be kind of cool to taste those. Cup to there. And actually, we'll use that cup. And I did feed a little bit of the mushroom water to the compost last night. Let me just do a little bit more. And I think that'll be it. Basically, for the most part, because I don't want it to be too wet. And actually, let's see. I actually don't need this drip tray because there's changed out the buckets because I used one as a tote. Okay, now I don't need the drip tray. And that's going to be my planter. Here's the towel. Covers that. Oh, and actually I had some more kitchen scraps I totally forgot. This back over. I know I'm a total professional. Got this under control. Got our little banana squid, cut it up into the compost bucket. We get a lot of bananas, so our compost is going to be super potassium rich, I guess. Which means I'll probably have to find some other sources to round it out. Coffee grounds help. The other food scraps. some pine needles from that I pulled off cutting that I took. I don't know if it's gonna necessarily take. And old habanero. Cover that, put that back. Well, now we'll get rid of the mushroom water. That back to its home. Cover it. Cover the potting soil. Okay, so we thinned out and watered the shiitake mushroom log. Fed the compost bin. Okay, and then I was thinking that if this mushroom water works, that you could actually just make your own mushroom water when you wash your mushrooms that you get from the store. Just get a bowl of, of cold water, submerge the mushrooms and kind of shake them around and rub off all the dirt. Along with the dirt are going to come some spores and mycelium. So that water should be inoculated too. I see no reason why it wouldn't be. So I think if you want to try that at home and let me know if that works, I might try it as well further down the line. But I think that would be kind of a cool experiment. I mean, if you're going to do compost bin, if you're going to do potting soil, I added some of the mushroom water to the potting soil. I don't know if I mentioned that, but this newest batch of potting soil that I made this morning, I added about, I would say a pint, maybe 3 cups, 4 cups at the most of the mushroom water. So I'm going to see if that kicks the potting soil into high gear. Okay. Next thing that I was going to talk about were the potatoes. Make sure that it's not dripping too bad. There might be a little moisture at the bottom. Oh yeah, it is dripping. That was dripping pretty bad. Give me a second to wipe that up real quick. For now. Okay, so these are the potatoes that we repotted into this 5-gallon bucket. Like I said, I'm not expecting there to be a huge amount of potatoes, but this one here has grown another 2 inches overnight, it seems, because it's the same height as it was when I put it in the soil, and it's about 2 inches under the soil right now. This is a baby white, and I actually found out that I have another baby white and another baby white, so I could have planted those together. I believe this is also a baby white. So I have 4 baby whites. So maybe I'll plant those 3 together and then have 2 baby reds and 1 baby white in this one. This one is the deepest planted. I don't know how far the camera goes down, but it's the bottom of the potato is probably about 1/3 of the way up the bucket, and the potato's about maybe 2 inches or 1.5 inches. And then hopefully these are the kind of potatoes that will put out as you keep stacking it up. I'm not sure. I'm guessing they are. Most commercial varieties, I would assume, are those because they produce more. But then again, most commercial growers probably don't have the ability to add soil, so maybe they aren't. But yeah, I think this baby red has also grown probably about 2 inches, and it had 4 stalks coming out, or 4 shoots coming out. So I'm going to try to make these shoots kind of split away from each other in hopes that they will produce better. But that's just going to take some teasing and training as I fill in the potting soil. And actually, maybe I can go ahead and add a couple cups of the potting soil right now. I have here. So this is the supercharged, or hopefully supercharged, mycelium potting soil. And I'll just use the weight of the soil to kind of splay these shoots in different directions so that they will hopefully start to grow away from each other a little bit. And if I can't tease them to do that, if I can't coax them to grow that way, I can at least kind of force the dirt between them and make them comply. And at the same time, kind of keep them away from the sides of the bucket, because that doesn't really help. These baby reds are going to develop faster because the potatoes were bigger, and I don't know, I think just based on the variety and how fast they chitted and when they were bought. So I'm going to try to stack one side higher than the other, and this potting soil I think is going to stay pretty well. You know, even when I'm watering it, it doesn't get pushed around if I use that sprayer. Eventually, the other one will get to the top of the bucket, and at that point we can kind of even it out. Pour it into an empty spot, and then use your hand to coax it into place and tamp it down just a bit. think that's pretty good. And then let them grow a little bit more. And I don't think I'm even going to really bother watering too much, because as you can see, it was dripping out the bottom, so it's got quite a bit of water, you know, in the zone where the potatoes are and where the roots are going to be developing. So the plant knows where the water is, and it's gonna go for it. So any roots that develop up here know where to go. At least that's my theory. But I will water them in just a bit. Noticing something in that asparagus pot. Don't know if I think it's just one of the roots. I don't think it's activated yet. But I had this package of 3, so I planted one kind of shallow in the 12-inch pot, and as it grows, I'm going to kind of layer it up. I don't know if that's necessarily the correct way to do it if you're doing a potted version. But I don't have a bed out there yet. Eventually I want to make a bed. But asparagus goes so far down that you just have to dig, and get good soil in it before you want to plant. Get some good compost and some mulch, and probably let that develop. So I don't know. We just saw these at the store, so I just picked up one for fun because I've never grown it, but my grandpa used to grow asparagus, and he had a pretty nice vegetable garden up on Camino Island when he was alive and living up there. So, you know, just something that reminds you of grandparents is always fun to grow. I think that's maybe why I like to grow apple trees, because my grandma also had a huge apple tree. It was grandma on my mom's side, so the asparagus was my grandpa on my dad's side. But yeah, she had a huge apple tree in her backyard that produced just like amazing amounts of apples. It had to be like 50 years old or something, I don't know. But she didn't really ever trim it or prune it, I don't think. Maybe she had like a gardener come and just whack it back. But I don't think she intentionally did anything with it. But yeah, I think that's maybe that's why I like growing those so much. But yeah, okay. So I guess on to the next thing. The bush beans. pot is pretty heavy, so I'm gonna keep a hold on it just in case. So these were the pumpkin seeds that I planted the other day. One of the pumpkin seeds I had shelled the night, or soaked and shelled. So its little initial root had started to grow maybe about half an inch, or maybe not half an inch, maybe a quarter of an inch, but enough to notice. So one of these pumpkins is going to come up pretty darn quick. The other two will probably be a day or two behind, because I prepared those ones a day or two behind. So these are the bush beans. I put in these sticks. They're just bamboo skewers, and tied some string around it. So this is actually not tied to the bean, so as the bean grows it can just slip through, and then just a little bit of glue tape to hold that string in place. So just, a little poor man's trellis. And as these grow, I have some bamboo stalks that also grow like gangbusters in the spring. So I'll cut those back, bring them into the garage where it's nice and dry those out, and then make a trellis that goes like this, and then just tie it to the bucket somehow, or I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go. But as you can see, these are the two cotyledons. Those are the two initial leaves. On bean plants and pea plants, those I think just get used up really quickly, just drain energy and then fall off, because they already have two real leaves and growing heads that are going to put out two new leaves on this one, and this one's maybe a half a day behind, even though it's just as tall. But we'll see if that catches up. I did notice that this one had some weird leaf development. I don't know necessarily why, but it was one of the tallest and nicest specimens, so I decided to plant that one. And again, I don't know how big these get, so maybe planting two in a 5-gallon container wasn't the best idea, but I'll be getting more containers and planting them out differently, and we'll see what combination of number of plants will work. Pumpkins definitely are going to have its own container. And I had a thought that maybe pumpkins, because they're vining, if you covered up a section, maybe they would put down roots. So, if that is true, growing it in buckets might actually work. Put a bucket, and then as it grows, put another bucket, bury it, and then hopefully you can just kind of daisy chain them together as it grows. I don't know if that'll work, but that's just an idea. Another thing that would work like that are tomatoes. So if you cut down that tomato and arced it from one bucket to another and filled it up, even though one tip was upside down, it would start to eventually grow. I'm pretty certain about that, because everything on a tomato will eventually root. Which actually might be kind of cool if you could figure out a way, like if you had some sort of arch that you made that it could follow. I don't know. That would be an interesting experiment to see, because I know a lot of people plant their tomatoes horizontally like this, and then have the growing tip up as its own plant, and then all of the places where it would have suckered shoot up new plants. So it's like having multiple plants planted at the same time, just with one plant planted a little bit ahead of time, which is the growing tip. Okay, beyond that, I guess I could plant out that cucumber, but I think I'm going to let it grow a little more. I did have another cucumber die, so that's 2 down, but we have some more that I planted coming sometime. I don't know if you can. Well, I don't know if you can see this apple tree. This tree and this tree were planted at the same time. This one is growing hydroponically. That one is growing in peat moss that's on top of a bed of rocks on a baking sheet, like with a rimmed baking sheet. So it was kind of an attempt at a little pond, and well, let me see if I can pick it up without destroying everything. Okay, so that's what it looks like. So this area was like a little runoff, like drainage area. This was a little pond, and I was going to have a little pump circulating, but that never matriculated because the pump burned out. But basically this is mostly just peat moss with some other kinds of mosses growing. It's got a pear started. There's another one up here that I don't think is going to take. I think there's another one over here possibly. I believe this is a pear. This is an apple. And I believe there's another pear or apple. Oh yeah, here. That one just started growing a couple days ago, and it's got some leaves coming. But eventually I'll transplant these out. This was just kind of an experiment. And actually I think for growing apples it actually works pretty well. I would redesign it a little bit differently though. So maybe we'll do that as a project. And then I had some kind of just local plants. This is just a random grass. And that just came naturally with the moss. I don't know what this is, but these are everywhere. And then little clovery looking things. And actually a couple of weeds. There were a couple of local strawberry plants, but they got destroyed somehow. I think it was inconsistent watering. We'll just throw that in the compost. Flowers. Okay. Oh yeah. That's the other thing I was going to do. Coconut. I don't know if you could hear that. There's good water in there. Nice, 3 nice eyes. Doesn't really smell like coconut, but it's very firm, woody. So we're gonna prepare this for germination. Ooh, there's kind of a bump here. I wonder if that's the. Oh, you know what? I bet that bump there is the embryo. And it's hollow now. It's got the white flesh inside. I'm sure everyone's seen the inside of a coconut. I bet this is the embryo that's going to develop. Maybe I should mark that. Do I have a? Okay, I guess I can use a ballpoint. Embryo? Question mark. So I don't know if you can really see that. There's a bump there. So yeah, just wonder. But I do believe that this here is where the tree is going to grow. Actually, one is where the tree grows and one is where the root grows. So maybe that's where the root grows. Well, that might not be true. It might both grow. I don't know. But we'll get that going. So that means I need a bucket for water. I'm going to take this guy out and we'll use... Yeah, these cucumbers really are just not liking it. Ooh, that's dangerous. I could probably get it in, but I would never get it out. Yeah, I think this cucumber is kind of having it too. I wonder if this mix was just kept too much moisture or something. Okay, so I'll find a bowl. Okay, again, you would have thought that I would have had that prepared. But, okay, so we have here is a bowl with warm water. Should be warm, slightly warm to your touch. When you add the coconut, roll it around, get it all nice and soaking. We'll do it with I guess we'll do it with the eyes like sideways in the water. Something like this bowl would help it to stay. Okay, and we'll just let that sit for 3 or 4 days. Maybe we'll change the water once or twice. That's it. Coconuts grow really slow, so this is going to be an exercise in patience on this one. But it is something that you can go to the grocery store and get. I think that coconut costs $4 though. So, but hopefully, if it lasts, which I suppose it will. I don't know. We'll have to get some maybe some sandy soil. Yeah, sandy soil. I think we have some old clay sand, so we might be able to do that. But I think coconuts like poor conditions in their soil. But we will see, because obviously they float in the ocean and then find beaches and wash ashore. So not necessarily the best soil, I would imagine. I was going to do the cucumbers like I said, but I don't think I'm going to. I don't think they're even going to survive, to be honest. So That tomato is a little bit redder than it was yesterday. Nice fist-sized tomato. Maybe just under fist size. Child's fist. Oh yeah. This little guy, I don't know if you can see that, with that little black seed on top. This little guy, oh, there are 3 of them in this one cup. There are 3 of them. So, last night there were 3 of them in different cups. 1, 2, maybe there were only 2 of them in different cups. But now there are 3 of them in this one cup, 1 in that cup, so that's 4. And then maybe none more. Probably should have taken this big thing out. But those are dragon fruit. So those are dragon fruit, white flesh on the inside. Kind of looks like a kiwi when you cut it open, but with white flesh and the same spattering of black kiwi-looking seeds. I heard that it takes a really long time for dragon fruit seeds to germinate. But those, fresh out of the dragon fruit, they took, I don't know, I think it was less than a week maybe, to germinate, which is on par with, say, like a pepper or tomato. Yeah, so I thought that was exciting. This was the rice that had started to come up yesterday. I still only see 7, so I think we might have lost one of them in the transplant. But that is cool anyway. Oh yeah, okay. These rice seeds that were soaking now have roots on them. So I will go ahead and plant these today. So that's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Another 10 rice plants potentially to go with our 7. So that would be 17. But I also am soaking a whole bunch more because yesterday I realized that that bag of rice is actually 2 kinds of rice. One is rice and one is sweet rice. So as a combination, it would be a little bit sweeter and probably less gluten because of that. I think sweet rice has less gluten, so it's used in desserts. And I'm sorry about the yard work that's going on. It's pretty annoying, and I almost drank it. But yeah, no roots on these yet. But considering the germination rate that I got on those, I think this is 100% germination rate out of these 17, except for the one rice grain that was broken in half. So obviously that's not going to sprout if it's the half that doesn't have the embryo attached to it. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And oh yeah, I almost forgot. This is going to be the latest experiment. So I bought some snap peas last night for dinner. Or I'm sorry, not snap peas, snow peas. I stored 1 pot. I don't think this one's going to work because the seeds are really, really small, but I'll try it just to see. I picked out the ones that had the biggest seeds, which I think are going to be the ones that have the greatest chance. I soaked 1 whole pod. It was a pod that had a crack in it. 1 whole pod. I had 1 that I shelled, and soaked those. Some of the peas came off with the umbilical, that small part that attaches the seed to the mother, and some of them pulled off without. So I'm gonna try my best to keep those all of the differences logged and see if it works. Snow peas, I believe you're supposed to just leave on the bush and let them continue to ripen, because these peas, I believe, as they ripen, the husk or the hull or whatever this is called, the pod, gets really tough. The peas inside turn more into hard beans, dried peas, and those that's how the pea stores its energy, right? As it gets bigger, that's storing more and more sugars for it to overwinter. But we don't need these to overwinter, right? These were fresh, so even though they're not as big, they don't have as much sugar, hopefully the embryo is developed enough that it will be viable, and then we can get some snow pea bushes. And snow pea bushes are really cool because they don't really they don't climb everywhere, and I don't think they do as much as like binding beans, obviously, but they'll be more contained, I believe. So yeah, let's make up some labels. Where did I put my blue tape? Right here. Okay. Snow peas, 2, 11, 20. Okay. So, because these were bought last night, I don't think necessarily the storage method is going to affect it that much, but maybe. These were in a brown paper bag, so breathable. It's going to extract some moisture, but it's dark in there, right? The green pods, I believe, are green because they still have, chlorophyll in them, right? So I don't know if that's going to make a difference. The ones that were here, they were just under with this on top, so light could get into it. The peas floated. Ooh, if I pushed the peas down, one of them sunk. So I wonder if... Okay, that one pops up pretty good. So I wonder if the one that sinks is going to be not viable. I think it was kind of the runt of them, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe the one that sinks is viable. So I will also mark that. Okay, so let's keep track of the ones that we need. Shelled with umbilical. The one that sunk has an umbilical. Okay. Okay, so far the categories that we have are shelled and soaked, which are the single peas floating. We have floating with umbilical, floating no umbilical, and then we only have one sunk. So we'll do sunk, and it happens to have an umbilical, so we'll do that. The other one that we have is unshelled and soaked. Again, there was a crack in the pod, so one of the sides of the pod had a crack in it, so water is going to get in there. I don't know if having access to the pod, maybe the peas can keep sucking out some of the energy from the shell of the pod. I don't know if that's true or not, so that's why we're adding it. And then we have the unshelled in a paper bag, which we are now going to shell, along with the unshelled soaked, so that we can determine whether we are going to have some with the umbilical and some without. So this is, semi-scientific. We have multiple specimens, but it's going to be hard because these seeds are all going to be at different stages of development. Okay, so that's no umbilical, no umbilical. Maybe we can force umbilical. Okay, that one still has umbilical. And what I'm calling the umbilical, I don't know if that's the true horticultural / botanical definition. But what I'm calling the umbilical is these little white things, which is what the shell of which is what the pea attaches to. So I don't know if that has any effect. I'm guessing that it doesn't, but it might, because it will have a little bit of extra energy in it, right? So, okay, so no umbilical, small umbilical. Okay, so there is one with an umbilical, so we'll say unshelled paper bag umbilical 1x, and then we have 5x umbilical. Okay, and then I'm going to line these up by what I think is the most developed to the least developed, or at least by size. And I believe, maybe I should have kept track of where in the pod they were. I don't know. This is the first time I'm doing this, so I'm not really too worried. I think I'll use the plum cutting. I don't know where I put the plum cutting. Oh well, I'll just put that there for now. So we'll do the two because I don't want to have like a ton of cups going on, and I don't even know if these are going to necessarily germinate. I'm going to do the two biggest ones. Damn. Where all this dirt came from. Oh yeah, I do. I'm scooping up potting mix. Okay, so now I need to label. So this was the second biggest unshelled paper bag. Okay, so unshelled. Unshelled paper bag. This was the second biggest. I'm going to plant them all about a 1/4 inch. This is the first biggest. We will water these in later. That one has a catch cup. So don't do that. And we'll do the next two biggest, and then we'll do the umbilical one with the smallest, I guess. Okay, so this one's the fourth. Third. And then actually the one with the umbilical was actually maybe the first. We'll put those in about a 1/4 inch. That's the first set, the unshelled paper bag. I guess we'll do the shelled and soaked first. Oh, that is like nice and crispy now. That really soaked in the water. Okay, that's cool. So the one that sunk is probably the 4th biggest. There are 2 with umbilicals, so but only one that sunk. Okay. Need more red cups. There's one more over there. Can't use that. Okay, so probably 3 cups is the best, but I'm not going to do that. So floating with umbilical.